Does this topic make you think of The Matrix? Because it does for me. It's Y101, Adam and Allison.
How so?
Well, because the only thing I know about The Matrix, I've never seen it, but I know the dodging of the bullet thing in like slow motion. And I want to know when you've dodged one of life's bullets.
Okay.
Based on a bullet that an 18-year-old dude in Iowa dodged the other day. He had met a girl, 18 years old as well, on a dating app. They had been chatting for about a week, and they finally planned to have their first date, wanted to meet up at a restaurant. And then at the last minute, this girl decides, don't want to meet the guy anymore, which stinks for the guy. I'm sure he was very disappointed that she didn't want to meet up in person anymore. But then he dodged the ultimate bullet because instead of just saying, I don't really want to meet up anymore, not really feeling it anymore, instead of just saying nothing and not showing up,
right,
she called 911 from outside the place that they were supposed to meet up at.
Why?
To tell police that her ex-boyfriend was there and threatening to hit, punch, kick, and stab her. She also claimed to be pregnant with the dude's child.
What?
Yeah, this is all to avoid going on a first date.
What?
So to and that's what made me think, like, this guy dodged a massive bullet, because what if she didn't get cold feet? Then, I mean, he certainly would have made him miserable at best, or at worst, she would have ruined his life.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance she would have called the cops on him throughout their relationship. And then he, like, at least this way, he was able to be like, I don't know this girl. We were supposed to meet for a first date. But I can't imagine deciding calling the cops, who are certainly going to have questions for you, the caller, would be less work than just ghosting the guy.
Exactly. I don't understand it. But if you've ever dodged a bullet, let's hear the story at 601-995-1017. Allison, I know you have a bullet that you've dodged.
I did.
What'd you do?
You helped me dodge my bullet. So I actually interviewed in Panama City Beach, Florida, which is where we got our first job working together. We did a morning show together, but I was actually interviewing for a competing radio station and the rock radio morning show.
Right.
And I had met my morning show partner. It was this guy who went by the name Fister, which I was a little like, oh, okay, this is weird. And we were talking on the phone like after I had been hired, and it was like, okay, we're going to be working together. And I could just tell from the way, like, I had mentioned the show I had worked on previously in Houston, and he was like, oh, I know that guy. I worked with him in such and such place.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll have to tell him. And right away he backs off. And it's like, I hate like a fake name drop. I mean, he was just so cringe. And luckily it all worked out. I ended up getting paired up with you instead. We worked on a totally different radio station, and I dodged that bullet.
I'm so flattered that I am a better bullet than a guy named Fister. I have a story too. Mine also job related that I'll tell in just a second, but I definitely want to hear about the time that you dodged a bullet, whether it was romantically like the guy I was telling you about from Iowa, or your job related like Allison and myself. It is interesting to think whenever you reflect back upon like different parts of your life and how differently your life would have gone depending on if you would have taken a different fork in the road type of thing. So we're talking about times you dodged bullets and whether or not that was somebody that you really thought would be your soulmate forever, and then it turned out they were crazy.
Right.
Or whatever. 601-995-1017. I'm remembering a time I was like 19 years old. I was still looking for my first like big break in radio. It's what I always wanted to do, but I was making like $30 a day working part-time in radio. It wasn't good. I found a full-time job. I applied for it. They liked me. They flew me out for an interview, which is something that I had never experienced before. Flew to Terre Haute, Indiana. And then I met who would be my boss, and we were having a conversation. They had offered me the job. I think it was for less money than I was making at the time.
Ooh.
And I said something like, I can't give you an answer right now. I need to talk to some people I trust. And the guy just flipped out on me.
Gross.
Started screaming at me, pounding his fists and everything. And actually, that was like the big boss at the place. The person who would have been my direct boss later told me, yeah, you're really lucky he didn't like send you back to your hotel room right then and there.
Oh my goodness.
but we talked him out of it.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, so I ended up not taking the job, and then I heard later that the guy was like verifiably insane. It was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough.
Yeah.
But at the time, it didn't seem like I had dodged a bullet at all. But had I ended up in, I don't even know if I would be on the radio today in 2024 if I would have done that back in 2012 or whatever it was. But times you dodged a bullet.
This whole conversation is reminding me, one time my friend told me whenever she was younger, it was like her dream to be a babysitter. Like she thought that's what all the cool kids did.
Oh.
And so she was like wanting to be one. And finally, one of the neighbors was like, I'll let you babysit my son. Luckily, she went to like this backyard barbecue with the family before that because the son had thought it was a great idea to put some pee in some water balloons and started throwing it at people.
Oh my gosh.
And after that, she was like, I don't think I can babysit your son.
Hey, it's Adam and Allison. Who's this?
This is Nia.
Nia, do you have a story about a time you dodged a bullet real quick?
I do. So I met someone on a dating app, and worst comes to worst, we go out on one date, the first date, and then I was like a little too tipsy to drive home, so I was just like, I'm not too far away from home, but I'm too tipsy to drive.
Right.
So I stayed the night, and then he wakes up and he has to leave for work, and so he immediately like wakes up, he kisses my forehead, and he's like, I love you, bye. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, wait.
Oh,
My face was like frozen, and he had just walked out the door. And then I was like, okay, I may not have heard that.
Yeah.
Well, then later I get a text, like I'm headed home. I get a text, and he's like, I mean, I know I said something to you before I left. My bad, but like, okay. He didn't even like.
He didn't take it back?
or anything.
Oh,
No,
my
he
gosh.
didn't take it back.
So how did the
I-
relationship with this guy end? Like, did you just never talk to him again? Did you go out with him more or what?
We did. We actually went on like this water park trip to like the Meridian Water Park or something.
Oh my goodness.
And long story short, we got into this huge argument. He said one thing and then said I said another, and pretty much was manipulating me and didn't want to own up to it. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm being gaslighted, and you don't have a car, so I'm gonna leave you here. Luckily, you're like 20 minutes from your house.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave you here. So I left him in Meridian because one, you're gaslighting the driver. Two, you're putting hands on the driver. Like he started gripping my wrist, and I was like, you know what? You have been exited the vehicle. You are gone.
Jeez, good for
I'm
you,
sorry.
Nia. I'm glad you dodged that bullet, although it seems like you hung out with the
Yeah.
bullet for a little while. You went all the way to
I gave
Meridian.
him 3 dates because I was like, I always give 3 dates. First date, I was kind of like I should have just no. But the second wasn't bad. Like it was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was awkward, but it wasn't bad. By the third date, and we decided to just go to this water park because it was the summertime and it was hot.
Yeah.
And he just messed that up, and I was
Yeah.
just like, "Yeah, your house is like 20 minutes from here. I'm leaving."
You figure it
I'm
out
not
from here.
coming back.
Nia, thank you so much for giving us a call, and it was great to meet you last week. I'm so glad you said hello.
You too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm still fangirling.
Aw, love it, Nia. Have a great day. Thank you for listening.